Hey everyone, I'm Sue and welcome back for another episode of Does This Notion Really Work? And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe below. That way you don't miss another video that I post. The Perfect Piecing Guide was designed by Celine Perkins, owner of Perkins Dry Goods. She designed it in 2007 while teaching a beginning quilting class. She wanted to test out for all of her students a scant 1/4 inch, and there was nothing like it on the market. So guess what? She designed one herself. Go Celine! So now let's take a closer look at this handy little guide.
Well, the first thing you're going to notice is the bright lime green color. It measures 4 inches long with 1/8 of an inch increments along the top edge. Along the bottom edge, there is a laser line, which is a scant 1/4 of an inch, and then a hole directly in the center. It's also the perfect size to slip into most any accessory box or carrying case.
So now, why a scant 1/4 of an inch? I mean, that's what we're told to do when we're quilting, right? Well, the way that Celine explained it to me was that if you use an exact 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and you go to press your seams either open or to one side, it doesn't allow for that thickness of the thread. And then think about it, if you're going to add like 10 or 20 different blocks on top of it and seams and seams and seams, then you're going to eventually lose that 1/4 of an inch. So the best way to do it is start with a scant 1/4 of an inch. So now how do you use the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide? Well, guess what? I'm going to show you right now.
First off, I want to point out that you do not have to use a 1/4 of an inch foot with this tool. In fact, Celine said you can use any foot that you're comfortable with. The truth is, you should even test the accuracy of your 1/4 of an inch foot if you still want to use one. Okay, let's get started using the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide. Place the guide under the presser foot and by hand lower the needle into the hole. Straighten the guide so that it's parallel with the edge of the throat plate, and take your time and make sure that you're really confident in your accuracy. Lower the presser foot to hold the guide firmly. Right up against the side of the guide, you're going to place masking tape or several layers of sticky notes, which is what I've done here, or you can get the Q-Tools sewing edge. Then go ahead and remove the guide and use the edge of the tape or your sticky notes to guide your fabric as you sew. I noticed while I was doing this that I felt so much more confident with my seam allowance, and because I had that guide, and in this case I used sticky notes, post-it notes, I felt just really secure, and I was focusing on the edge of the sticky notes versus the needle. Look at that, it's a beautiful seam allowance. Now let's just double check that it is in fact a scant 1/4 of an inch. Use the other edge of the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide that has the ruler to double check. Let's zoom in and make sure. It looks fantastic. Actually, it looks perfect.
So now who's the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide for? Well, let's see. Do you use more than one machine? Like, for example, let's say that you're going to class and you bring a different machine to class, or you use someone else's machine at class, and then you've got a machine at home. Or like many of us have multiple machines. So what happens is from machine to machine, your seam allowance is going to change. That's why this is a handy little guide, keeping your seam allowance exact from machine to machine. It's also perfect if you like making doll clothes or dolls or teddy bears or basically anything that requires a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. This is the guide for you, or should I say guide. What else is fantastic is, take a look at the size. It's little and it's bright, so it's going to fit perfect into any sewing accessory case. So, does this notion really work? Yes, it does. And what's even better is it was created out of necessity. And that is in itself a really amazing thing. They retail for $6 and they are made in the USA. So where can you get your very own Perfect Piecing Seam Guide? Well, of course you can go to Celine's website, which is perkinsdrygoods.com. You can also ask your local quilt shop or see if they have them in the big box stores. I've also left some links in the description below where you can find them right here online. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. That way you don't miss another video that I post. Another way that you can follow me is on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. And there I post a lot of behind the scenes kind of things. If you have any ideas for notions that you'd like to see demonstrated, or if they even work, go ahead and leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to check them out. Well, until I see you next time, I hope you have a creative day. Bye-bye!
If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe below. And don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. Have a creative day. Bye-bye!